Tell me something. When were you always confident putting your voice out there, like this that you are today?
No, I think it's a journey for all of us. I think very few of us are born just feeling comfortable taking up space in that way. And it's been a very long journey of me getting comfortable, like putting my voice out there, knowing that my words have worth, knowing that I deserve to be seen and that it's generous to be seen. And it's taken, I would say it's been a journey of maybe 10 years.
First, finding confidence in yourself, then knowing that you are now with your words and how you're. It's not just about you. It's about other people join you and the courses and everything.
All I ever wanted to do was make art. All I ever wanted to do was tell stories. And I felt so ashamed about that for so long that the fact that I now get to tell stories and the fact that I now get to do what I love, to me, the idea of not telling other people that they can also do it would be so wrong. Because I was only ever told that it's going to be, basically impossible, that, you're delusional and that, it's silly what you're thinking of doing.
Hey, you guys, welcome to the podcast. I'm very excited and very, very, very pumped um, to to introduce someone to you who's someone I have really looked up. I think any artist so far on Instagram must have crossed her and her words and her energy on Instagram so far. I have Amie McNee on the podcast today. Welcome to the podcast, Amie.
Thank you so much, Charuka. I'm so glad to be here.
I'm so happy to have you here. I don't think you need an introduction specifically with the words that you write. I think if now it has happened to me, if somebody reshares your post, and if I'm looking at someone's feed and if there's no credit also, I would know this is you. I would know this is you.
That is such a compliment to be known even without credit. I love that. No one's ever said that to me before. Thank you.
No, I'm sure a lot of people would agree. My team also, who manages social media, we're all a big fan of yours. And they also know, like, anytime they'll come across, then be like, oh, this is Amy's work, but nobody's credited it. Like, we all know it so well.
I'm so grateful. I get a few people who I feel like they're like my warriors out there on Instagram, and whenever they see it, my work uncredited, they're like, Amy, they like hunt it down.
Okay, tell me something. When were you always confident putting your voice out there, like this that you are today?
No, I think it's a journey for all of us. I think very few of us are born just feeling comfortable taking up space in that way. And it's been a very long journey of me getting comfortable, like putting my voice out there, knowing that my words have worth, knowing that I deserve to be seen and that it's generous to be seen. And it's taken, I would say it's been a journey of maybe 10 years, 10 good years of just every day practicing. Let's put myself out there. Let's be witnessed. And because I do it so constantly, like I think over time I've just gotten used to it, and I've realized that this is where I belong. And as artists, as writers, whatever it is we're doing, we deserve to be seen. And so finally now I feel very comfortable in using my voice and being witnessed with my words.
I imagine you, I know you as who you are today. I've worked with you with the courses. Of course, I followed your journey and, talking to you also. But I'm trying to imagine who the version of you that part of you who evolved into this part of you. And I'm asking this because, often we talk about the successes and we talk about, oh, I'm comfortable, we've worked. But sometimes I think when I can place myself, oh, if Amy was like that, and if she can do this, there's another Amy who may be listening to this episode. I'm like, I am like that, but I can become who Amy is today. Can you describe yourself?
Yeah. So I struggled so hard with the fact that I wanted to be a writer and the fact that I wanted to be an artist. I had so much shame. So for years and years, I knew I wanted to be a storyteller, but I had this deep shame, and I thought it was so embarrassing that I wanted this. I thought it meant that I was a child that hadn't grown up correctly. I thought it was deeply irresponsible. We are all plagued by this cultural narrative that, you'll never make any money. It's time to grow up and be in the big world. And I couldn't get past it. And so I just held onto this shame that something was wrong with me and that I wasn't a functioning adult. And so I had this, yeah, I had to move through and had to accept that my calling to be an artist was holy and it was needed and it was actually really responsible and the most adult thing I was ever going to do. Like the most adult thing I've ever done is embrace the fact that I want to take my art seriously. But it took a lot of narrative shifting because I truly I did not like myself, Charuka. I thought I was such a fool. I felt so silly. I felt so embarrassed every day. And I would, I'd work these jobs that were I would waitress so that I could write on the side, and everyone else was, getting much more money and in big world adult jobs, and they were like, "Oh, what's Amie doing?" And I was like, "I don't know what I'm doing." Oh my God, it was so embarrassing. I think that's the funny part about it. I was so embarrassed for so long. And I ended up losing my way.
Embarrassed to call yourself an artist, to say you write.
It was so embarrassing. "What are you up to, Amie?" "Oh, I'm waitressing and I'm also trying to write books." And I was just so embarrassed to tell people about this. I was ashamed. It was deeper than embarrassment. And I know everyone was very worried about me. I got into a lot of debt. I had to ask my parents for financial help. It was just a mess. But the worst part about it was that I just did not like myself. I thought, what is wrong with me? And I really hit a rock bottom. I was incredibly depressed because I didn't like myself. I didn't know why I was so committed to this idea of storytelling and of being an artist. I lost my job. I lost a book contract. Everything was going wrong. I had so many rejections from publishing houses. And I decided I would start journaling because I had nothing to do with my time. I had moved in with my in-laws. I was incredibly low. And I was like, well, if I can do one good thing with my day, I'll go out, I put a coffee on a credit card, and I'll journal. And so that literally started. I have the date. It was April 16th, 2018. And I've journaled every day since then, every single day. And journaling allowed me to change those narratives. So I would write on the page, I'm what is wrong with me? Why can't I just grow up? Why am I like this? Why does no one even wants your writing, Amie? You're not even good enough for this. I would tell these stories and put them on the page, but then I would witness them and then I would rewrite them on the pages of my journal. And I would say things like, "You know what? You are doing so much better than you think. You are made to make art. You are on the path. I refuse to live a life of mediocrity. I want to live a creative life and I'm going to live a creative life." And I just translated these horrible stories into stories of empowerment. And that's how I got here today. So I owe everything to that ashamed, embarrassed version of myself because she did the work and she allowed me to build a life of my dreams.
You mentioned journaling, and I think journaling has been life changing for me as well. And that is why I actually took your own course of journaling, because I started journaling, I think, same time around, like you said, 2018. And 2018, or I don't know, yeah, a little late than that, maybe mid year. And I used to live alone. I was staying in the main city. I was very, very lonely. I didn't know. I knew I wanted to become an artist, but I had no clue how to become an artist, because of course I was making art all my life, but I never thought myself as an artist. But the moment I started to think myself as an artist, things switched. And I was like, I don't know how to figure this out. And so I saw a few people online, and then I started to wake up every morning and just write something, and I would draw something. But it was just an early practice. I would wake up early. But what really changed it for me was when my mom passed away. I've said this a lot of times on the podcast also. When my mom passed away, one two things that held me together. I think I have processed so much of grief, so much of life, so much of instability that even I think I feel today. My mom passed away in 2020, and before that I was journaling, but maybe I would skip a few days, and I still do one a day, but it's like I stopped breathing. It's become that. But journaling was so powerful, and when I joined your journal course, it was just around that time I was still journaling. And I showed it to my partner. I have these like thick books, and they're not journals to me anymore. You know these are just how I have processed grief, my mom's passing, talking to her every day. And I can't, like, I'm 3.5 years into her passing now, but I feel like I would have not made it if I didn't have, I one, my dogs, and two, my my journaling. If I didn't have either of these, I don't think I would have made it. Like, I couldn't even imagine how just writing 3 pages in the morning, how powerful that is. If I meet anybody, I'm like, please wake up, just write 3 things. Just don't even think what you, just write 3 pages. Just do that if you can't do anything.
Well, it's such beautiful testimony. I'm so glad that you found the journal. And I think that we're just not meant to process everything in our heads. Like we're meant to get stuff out. We're meant to see our thoughts, I think. And I think when we try and keep it all in our bodies and our minds, like it's too much. And putting it on the page gives such relief. And yeah, there's something mystical and magical about it. I mean, I know without that practice, I wouldn't be where I am today. It changed everything for me.
Your mission is like, you keep telling artists, keep giving us reminders, you know how to get more comfortable, how to put ourselves out there, how to be seen, like how to get comfortable with getting seen. I think a lot of us are, the problem is not that we don't know how to get seen. It is so hard for us to put ourselves out there. And art is vulnerability, art is personal. We feel scared of people's rejection, people's opinions. When you start putting yourself out there, first let's start with you. Did you have fear of being trolled? Being also, I think the biggest one on online is, if I know you, if I'm your family, and you start writing something that's completely personal, and we feel like I'm exposing my life, I'm exposing myself, people will judge me, my friends will laugh at me, or like, oh, what is she writing? Oh, who is she? Did you go through that?
Oh my god, yeah. So I remember when I wanted to start an Instagram to record my journey as an artist. But I was like, I can't because everyone's gonna see me and they're gonna be like, who does she think she is? Like, oh, she thinks she's a writer. And I was so plagued by these imaginary, thoughts of my friends and family that what I did instead was I started Inspired to Write, which is my Instagram account, and I blocked every single person I could think of. And it took me like 2 or 3 hours. And I sat there and I was like, random boy from school, random, cousin. And I blocked every single person who would ever get in the way of me being seen. Because sometimes we need to create safe places like that. Like what you just said, Charuka, like being an artist is so vulnerable. Sometimes we deserve to say, no, you're not allowed to witness me, not now. And so I created a space where I could become the writer that I knew I was, where nobody's preconceived notions of who I was going to keep me small, where nobody's imagined thoughts were going to make me feel scared of being witnessed. I wanted a safe place away from everybody who knew me. And so I made it for myself. And over the years, I started unblocking everybody, but nobody who knew me was allowed to see me in this like cocoon stage of taking up space. I think a lot of artists should do this because we deserve that safety as we step into the identity as artists.
And also, I think a lot of times it hinders because people will have opinions, and sometimes we're conditioned in a way that, okay, maybe they don't like what you're doing. And that's their, not that they want something wrong for us, it's just that's how they look at life, they look at creativity, or whatever that means. But that does not mean that we have to think that way, but it does hamper on how we look at things. So I also like this idea, like you said, the cocoon, where you shape your thought process not by the biases of how people around you look at things, then you how you actually look at things.
Exactly, like, it's perfectly put, Sharika. Like, we need to move those biases out of our way and just be self-made without all of their preconceived ideas of who we are, so we can become something new.
So tell me a little bit more about your own childhood. How do you think that has impacted you today? How even that impacts you today, every day, actually?
My little inner artist. Little Amy, she's super super creative. I've been thinking about her a lot lately. Um, always in her own world, lots of make-believe stories. I was very lucky to have parents who, whilst they definitely worried for me when I decided I wanted to be an artist, like they never told me not to. When I needed financial support, I was so lucky to have them. And, they've always been by my side, encouraging the arts. And so I'm so, so grateful to have had them. But it's amazing that even with these parents who were like pro art, like I had so much shame about it, and when we have parents who like really don't want us to get into the arts, like it must be so much harder than I experienced. And I felt like I went through the fucking, like, it was horrible for me. So I, even with these incredible parents, I still think I grew up thinking that, my art, my artiness and my creativityness was for little Amie, only for little Amie. Um, I think we think art is for children or the retired, and we don't realize that it is like an adult activity. Art is for adults.
It's also in India, it's for women. It's like boys cannot get creative because they have serious things to do. And if you are creative, that means you're not serious enough. You just here to spend your time and then nothing constructive. It's not considered even constructive.
Yes, it's seen as decoration, like it's nice. Almost like these old ideas of what women are, like a decoration. It's not, they're nice. Yeah, I agree. I think I talk a bit about, like, I want more men in my community because I think men have been robbed of that vulnerability of the arts because men aren't meant to be vulnerable. Yeah, which is such an important narrative that I'm so glad that we're all working against. Like, I want it gone. Like, we need vulnerable, creative men in our lives, and we need women to understand that the arts is so serious, that, and we're allowed to take creativity seriously. The arts change the world. It's an incredibly political thing to do, to make art. It can, make a huge impact in your communities, in your own body, in the people you surround you with. Like, art isn't decoration. Art is, a tumultuous force.
I think COVID did remind us that to a lot of us, because while the world, everything that was necessary, we thought mattered. We also realized, like, even though the doctors were doing the job, we needed so much more than just those. Like, of course, they are the infrastructure, and we all recognize how important doctors, engineers, all of these things are. What we don't recognize is how important artists are, because if we didn't have music, imagine, like, every time this question comes to me, I'm like, if there wasn't music in COVID, if there weren't enough books, if there wasn't even pretty things to look at, imagine blank spaces, dull, we all would have lost hope by then.
Yeah. Yeah, COVID was a beautiful reminder that, art's the point. What's the point of this without art? There isn't one. So yeah, we need to shift that narrative. It is not just decoration. Like, art is the point of life.
Was little Amy scared of being seen?
It's a good question. I'm very introverted, so I get my energy from being alone, but I wouldn't say I'm shy. Um, I think something actually that I've been really looking into right now is the shame of liking to be seen. So I think when little Amy, she liked to tell a story, she liked to put on a show, and as I got older, I think I was like, oh, that's not what I should do. I should be more modest, and art should be made just for the sake of art, or art should be made because I just want to make it for myself. But the reality is that a big part of me makes art for the attention. A big part of me makes art to be seen, and a big part of me wants to be witnessed. And it is very vulnerable, and it is incredibly hard to be witnessed in such a vulnerable state. But it is what I am after. And I think we as artists need to lean into the fact that it's not a shameful thing to say. Like, I make art for the attention is a very controversial sentence, but I don't want it to be, because we're human beings and we make art to connect with other people. And that connection is so beautiful, so pure. And so I think that I've gotten little baby Amy got it. She was like, I want to put on a show. I want people to look at me. But as I got older, I was like, I'm not meant to want that. So I'm reclaiming baby Amy energy.
I love that. I believe this ever since, like, now in my 30s. And somebody told me that, and now I've started to really reaffirm this, that in our 30s we start to live for the child that we were while we were 13. And like you're saying, I can connect. I'm trying to connect those thoughts. Like, when I was young, I was a very lonely child, and like you said, I always found energy by being alone, making something just by myself, having music on, or reading a book, or I would always make a mess. I think I'm just someone who loves to make a mess. And I had so much of shame. Like, if I'm a messy person, um it's my creative process like that. I would lay everything out and then I'll look at things, touch and feel them. My work is very tactile, and then I'll select, okay, this looks nice, and I'll put it off and I'll put another embroidery. That is who I am. But if I even go in the kitchen, I love cooking, let's say, I find it another very therapeutic and healing creative process. So I would lay everything down. So I felt while I was growing up, I felt very tortured, like ashamed that I was messy. And then while I started when I started maturing, and when I started to be in my 30s, I was like, hell, I am messy. I and I want to, and I was like, I think while in my 20s and early years, I felt like I had to fit in. I Because I wasn't social, or I would escape. I'm like, no, I don't escape anymore. I choose to spend time with me and my creative time. Then I choose to do it with someone else, or be in a party, or do some talk that I really wouldn't find, like, it's like you said, I have always, for years and years, I've just every day I've written in my journal, I want a more creative life, I want a more creative life, I want a more creative life. And I'm like, hell, when I was small, and my mom wanted me to learn dance, and I would train as a Kathak dancer, and I while now in my 30s, I'm like, I'm doing the same things, everything that I wanted to do while I was 13. Like, yes, this makes sense. Like, I'm just being seen, but not on how people wanted to see me, but how I want to be seen. I think that's a huge.
I love that. I think there's definitely a distinction there because I want to be seen, but I want to be seen as Amy in all of my mess, in all of my like wildness, in all of my like rebellion and slight quirkiness. Like, I want to be seen as Amy. I do not want to be seen as who you think you want me to be. I love that. Really beautiful. And I love that you're messy. Mess is integral part of art. And I think we've been told, oh, if you're going to make art, you better make it perfectly. There better be no mess. And it's like, no, like art is a human activity. It's innately messy and there should be mess.
I think what probably, in my own opinion, what the biggest problem with being seen is, a lot of time, I think, as I've grown more comfortable within my own self as an artist, as a person, like you said, putting myself every day out there on how the way I am, like, the culture I've been brought up in, I fully try to embrace that today. I think so many in the young years, while are scared of being seen, a lot of that also has is we're scared to be seen of who we are, because a lot of times we don't have acceptance towards it. We're ashamed of it, and maybe we're ashamed of how our language is, how your accent is, or how your body looks like, or how your upbringing is like. And then there is a switch, and you're like, this is who I am.
Yes, there's so much. It's so hard to not be tolerant of yourself, and I think at some point for a lot of people, it's like, well, fuck this. This is who I am. Like, accept me for who I am, which is so beautiful. And I love this idea that the older we get, the more we just lean into, this is my voice, this is my body, this is my art. Witness me or don't witness me. I don't care. Like, if you can like me or you don't like me. I think a big part of the artist's journey is understanding that people won't like you and it's totally okay. People will misunderstand you and it's totally okay. I think a lot of the time when we're trying to be seen, often we're trying to control how people see us. Okay, if I'm going to be seen, you have to like me. If I'm going to be seen, you have to understand what I do. You have to understand my art. And it's a fool's quest because you'll exhaust yourself because people won't like you and people won't get you. And that's so okay. It's so safe to be misunderstood. That's the artist's point. Like, all artists are divisive. If you're not divisive, you're not doing it right.
Tell me something. While you started to put yourself out there, there was a point you were actually getting seen. It's sometimes I think there's also this safety in the cocoon, in the sense of in putting it in the void, because we know, like, even if I'm saying something, I know nobody's reading it, or only a few people are. But eventually, that starts to become, your word starts to add more value. Everything that you're being watched, looked at. Your words are being listened. How was your shift, your journey, like while you just started to put your words in inspired to write? And then I'm sure in the beginning it was a void, but then that void started to get filled, and now it's big, where your words multiply. How can you take us through a few of your feelings, and how you got comfortable with growing like this.
I'm very, very grateful. I see a lot of creators today who have, very few followers, and then all of a sudden they've got like a million followers, and it's very intense. And so there's no warm up. Where I've had maybe I don't know if it's a unique journey. I don't know how common it is, but I started like maybe 10 years, maybe to the day, Sharuka, 10 years, September 2014. That's when I started that account. And it has been such steady growth. So very incremental, steady growth over 10 years of my audience. And so I feel like I've grown with my audience in a very smooth way. And I'm very grateful for that. So I never had like a, oh my God, all of a sudden I'm being very, very seen. I've never even really gone particularly viral. I've just slowly grasped more and more beautiful readers and beautiful people that are in my life. And so I feel very blessed to have had a smooth transition. But there are times, where, for example, someone will be rude to me on a post, and I'm like, wow, my community is so big now that like not everyone is nice in my community. And I have to sit with the feeling of being very misunderstood, or I have to sit with the feeling of, oh, my community aren't all about me, and it can take me a minute or two to make myself feel safe. But I'll just sit there and be like, Amie, you're in your beautiful cottage, you're completely safe. People aren't meant, not everyone will like you. So a practice that I like to do when I get a bad book review or if someone's mean to me is I like to like Google my favorite authors' bad reviews. We will all get bad reviews. People will always be addicted to you online. It happens to all of us. We are not alone in this. Um, yeah, so I remind myself that this is a part of the journey and that most people are incredibly supportive and beautiful. And I'm held in, I have the most incredible readers, and I am so loved in that way, and I'm so grateful for that. So I try and lean into that reality too.
So, from your own journey of the little Amy to then taking your ownership, then slowly and steadily putting yourself every day out there, you found a way that works for you. You found your voice, and you found who you were, and you were okay being being seen the way that you were. How has then that journey took a bigger leap? Because I personally think specifically there's one, while you get comfortable in your own skin and okay with being seen and like not all of those things, that's one stage. But then there's a bigger jump when you're like, okay, I figured this out, now I'm going to help someone else, one, two, four, five, and then thousands and hundreds. What's that for you? How did that happen? How did you first finding confidence in yourself, then knowing that you are now going your words, and how you're, it's not just about you, it's about other people who join you, and your courses and everything like that.
All I ever wanted to do was make art. All I ever wanted to do was tell stories. And I felt so ashamed about that for so long that the fact that I now get to tell stories and the fact that I now get to do what I love, to me, the idea of not telling other people that they can also do it would be so wrong. Because I was only ever told that it's going to be, basically impossible, that, you're delusional and that, it's silly what you're thinking of doing. And I can't have anybody else think that way. I want to be a voice against that voice. I want to go around and to pick up any artist who's feeling that horrible like feeling of self-doubt and say, I'm taking you so seriously and I believe in what you're doing and what your vision and your dreams are possible. Because that's what I needed. And so I feel like I am in service to a past version of me. And I've always wanted to to be I've become the person that I needed myself to be. I needed someone like me in the past, and this is the person I've become. Mm.
That we become the person we once thought we wanted someone to rescue us. We actually become that.
It really feels like that. And so it feels like the greatest privilege in the world to get to be with other creatives and to encourage all of us. Um, I feel so people often ask, like, "Why do you do what you do, Amy?" And it's hard for me to explain. Like, I just love artists. I love creatives. We are so incredibly important and we are so undervalued, and it pisses me off. And so I have a fire in me, that's like, I want to get us together. I want us to feel okay. I want us to feel powerful again.
I love that. Okay, one important question. Another thing that once you start to grow is not often while you grow, your creativity may grow in the sense of not your creative hours. When you grow, a lot of those non-creative hours start to grow more, like marketing, admin, sales, like all of these things, because then it's not about you, it starts to become a business, or you, it's so much more. And a lot of people have a lot of resistance towards it. I know I used to have it long time ago, but I think now I embrace that part. But I still feel there are days where I'm like, you know what, I'm not going to do anything, I'm just going to be in the studio, or like, but I also know this is as much a responsibility today, then, because I have commitments, I've committed people, their work, all of this. But the strife, like you said, I also feel like, when I closed my first fashion business, I think the first reason on why I did that was because when I came out from my fashion school, I thought being in a fashion business meant, running a fashion business meant was I would draw beautiful garments every day, and I would be like this creative, like, because that's what fashion school was about. We would draw, and then I would drape, and then we would embroidery and all. And when I started a business, I was like, I'm the one who's hiding. I'm the one who's telling the manufacturer. I'm looking at, counting stocks and then making bills. I'm like, none of this absolutely includes designing or actually making something. And I think this is a strive for a lot of us, specifically in the beginning, because the other side a lot of people don't tell about it is, you will feel this right in the beginning, but things also get better when you grow. Your time will come back to you because you'll have more people who can pitch in with you. Now, how is it for you? How was your journey?
Yeah, there's so many beautiful points in there. I think you're right. It does get easier. I mean, we ebb and flow in terms of like, you know, how hard and how easy it is, but definitely I feel like it's like basically up in terms of ease, and I get to do more art the more of the hard yards I've put in business wise. But yeah, business is a huge part of being an artist, and I think sometimes that catches people by surprise, and you get a lot of angry creatives out there who say, I didn't realize I had to be a content creator as well as an artist, and they're pissed. And I want to have empathy for that, because like it is a lot. We have to do a lot. We're essentially entrepreneurs. We're business people as creatives. Um, but I also want to lean into the fact that business can be an art, marketing can be an art. I mean, I love business, and there are parts of it I really don't like. Like I'm not super great with taxes and whatever. I'll get them done, but then they don't light me up. But there are parts of business that make me a better storyteller, and there are parts of writing that make me better at business. Like they come together in a very beautiful way. And so I do want to encourage the artist who feels almost angry or bitter or resentful at the business part of it, um, that this is a part of the game. Like when we choose to make art, we also choose to champion that art. We also choose to market that art. Like this is a part of it. Like we get to make art, but then we have to put it out there and back it and believe in it and put a price on that. And that's really hard, but it's also very beautiful. And it's part of the artist's job. Um, and I think it's a really holy part of the job. I love it.
Is there anything that you do while, I think, as we start to grow as artists, as people put ourselves out there, get more seen, do you have any practices, anything that helps you keep that cocoon alive, or this invisible layer to protect your creativity? Because sometimes too much information, too many things happening, it does get in the way. Like the heart and soul of anything that we do is our create. What do you do?
I think this is an excellent conversation that we need to be having, because so many artists prepare for failure, but they never prepare for success. So it's like, how are you going to have boundaries in place to make sure your art practice is protected? How are you going to know, like, what do you want to do? Who do you want to work with or who you do not want to work with? No one's preparing for their inevitable success. We're all just preparing for the failures. And so when artists do get successful, you see a lot of people getting very overwhelmed very quickly because they've never thought about this, not once. They've never dared to. They've been superstitious about it, or they've never thought it was going to happen. So you get almost like these very shocked artists who are very suddenly successful, and they're not prepared. And so I think all artists should prepare for their success. So, to keep that beautiful sacred layer around our art, I have very, very specific times in my day where I write my stories, and there can be no business, nothing else happens in those times. If I feel like
So are you someone who blocks time?
yeah, so my mornings are always for writing. Every day, doesn't matter. It doesn't matter what else is going on in the business. I could have a huge thing on, but the mornings, I never plan anything in the mornings because that's my time to write. That's my art time. It's sacred. And so, Beyonce could be like, I want to do a collab with you. I have no idea why I chose Beyonce, but like it's not, you can't do it in the morning because that's my time. Um, and so I protect my writing in that way, because I always want it to be my priority and I always want it to, yeah, come before the business stuff. But we've got to, sorry. No, I was just going to say we've got to think about so many different things when it comes to our future success, like boundaries, like who do you want to work with or who do you not want to work with? How many hours do you want to work? How many hours do you not want to work? How are you going to make sure that your success is something you actually want to live in? Because a lot of artists get to a success, and they don't want it anymore. But it's like, because it's not the life they wanted. So what is a life you're actually going to enjoy? Because, you know, maybe you just want to live, in a forest, in the woods, writing books, connecting with your people online, but you never want to go on a tour. You have to know that because you're going to need to tell your publishers immediately. Like you're going to need your boundaries and you need them in immediately, but no one's ever prepping for this. So design your beautiful, successful, creative life in your head and think about the steps you need to take to get there because there'll be specific steps you need to take.
I love that. No, I think this is, I also read this somewhere, which is very popular, that a lot of times the fear is not of the failure, the fear is of the success.
People are so afraid of success. They're afraid of their friends not liking them anymore. They're afraid of making people feel small. They're afraid that money will destroy them. They're afraid that they won't like their art practice anymore. I know I work with thousands of creatives, and I know they're all way more scared of success than they are of failure. And so we need to look at those fears and we need to unpack them. If you're afraid that money's going to ruin you, well, then what steps can you take to make sure that you have a good relationship with money? If you're afraid that it's going to ruin your art practice, you need to protect your practice now, not just when the offers roll in. Now, there's a lot of preparing we need to do for our inevitable success.
And it's like I love it's I always look at it like I think artists are very similar, should behave very similar to athletes. You need to prepare for the game before, even before, like you even know you're ready for a game. You live that life before that games even comes in the picture. Like it's like you have to have that discipline, that dedication, the respect, like, and take yourself. I love that spirit of our athletes. I think it's just, and I feel like there's a lot of overlap.
Oh, I agree. One of my most famous posts is actually that artists are not like athletes, and because I was talking about how artists don't win gold, we don't have a first place, which is true, but in so many ways. And contrary to that post, we are so like athletes. We need to invest in our recovery. We need to invest in our warm ups. We need to invest in our mental game. Like prep ourselves, take ourselves seriously. Athletes take themselves so seriously. Why aren't artists?
And it's like both of them sound as unreasonable to the world as like and I'm like, I love the spirit when, like, when they say they have a game and they have to go to practice every morning, every evening, they are at it. 3 years they know there's going to be another game. 3 years, and they do it like a job every day, and they eat accordingly, wake up accordingly. And I have a friend who's an athlete, and he's like, oh, I have a game that I need to appear for in 2026. And he's like, even from today, I wake up as I should. I was like, this sounds very much like being an artist. Like, I feel like it does not matter if I have a show or I don't. I wake up every day and I want to make art. I have to make art. I have to write. I can then do anything else later. But then these things, and even if I don't do it, it's not like it's going to be easy. Like, I feel like I'm getting out of breath. Like, this is the reason I do everything else.
I love that. I absolutely love that. You're right. Like we need to channel that, the discipline and the commitment and how serious these athletes take themselves. Like artists need to do the exact same thing. I love that he was prepping for something in 2026. Like we need to prep for 2026. What's happening in our art lives in 2026? Let's prep for it today. Let's treat our bodies and our minds and our art today because we have a huge future ahead of us.
One question related to the next.
Of course.
I love how you name your courses. Like, I think they're so, like, they speak to you. Like, um, write your fucking book, the journaling course, like selling without selling out. Like, and then the new book that you've just published is now available. We Need Your Art. Do you want to talk about it?
Yeah, I would love to. Thank you for giving me the opportunity. So she's on just for pre-order right now. So she comes out early next year in March. So speaking of preparing early, I'm preparing early for this baby, and I'm going to be, backing this piece of art for 6 months, trying to get pre-orders in. I'm going to be the biggest champion because, like, I need to be the biggest champion of this book because she's mine. So we need your art. And then the subtitle is "Stop fucking around and make something." A little bit cheeky, a little bit cheeky. So yeah, she's a creative manifesto essentially. So whether you're in a slump or even if you're like very far into this road but you're just feeling a little or if you're a beginner, this book is about reawakening the creative fire in you, because what you're doing is very important, and it's about reminding you why what you're doing is important. It's about navigating all of these creative blocks, the perfectionism, procrastination, imposter syndrome, recognizing that this is a hard fucking journey, but it is yours and you absolutely have what it takes to move through it. So it's really just like a creative Bible. And I want artists to have the support and the reverence they deserve. And that's what I feel like I did in this book.
I love that. I love that. I'm going to get my pre-order as soon as get I get off the call.
Thank you. So I think it's coming out basically everywhere, but for India you can order it through the UK, and the UK are the only ones they're the only ones that get the swear word in the title. Everywhere else took out the swear word, so you can get the naughty cover.
That's also something I want to mention. Like, a lot of times, your book is being published along with, like, by Penguin Random House. It is one of the biggest publishing house. But a lot of times, I think even as artists, sometimes we feel like if we get a bigger publisher, a bigger gallery, our work is done. And oh, I don't have to do. Look at you. Uh, even before you've opened, talking about your art, you're putting yourself out there, even though you have somebody who you could easily leave it out to them, and you would be like, okay, they are here to do a job. But I think this is something that I really want to mention. A lot of times as artists, we think like things will only happen when somebody big is going to come into the picture and I wouldn't have to do. But the contrary to that is, you when keep on doing what you do, it does not matter who's with you or not, and often people come to you because of that. Like, you know what I mean?
Yeah, no, I love that. Thank you for seeing me in that. Like for me, if I think this book is good, why wouldn't I back it? If I wrote this baby, like I've got to back it. If I want you to read my book, I have to be its champion. And so for me, it's an act of service to myself. Like it is my job as the author to get behind this baby and to promote it in any way I can. And I know a lot of people don't want that to be their job, but I really believe that if you made it, you back it, you champion it. Like that's your job. No matter who's behind you, no matter what publishing house has picked you or what gallery you're at. You're the artist and this is your job. So for me, I take that very seriously because I love my creations and I want other people to love them. So I've got to go out there and tell people about it.
I love that, Amy. Thank you so much. I really appreciate this conversation. And thank you so much for your time. I'm going to grab my copy and I will make sure that we send out a newsletter, link it everywhere, and promote on the roof, like shout out it for you. Because I think give so much credit is because I absolutely love what you write every day, getting in the morning and looking at your post. I think just going through that, it just feels like, I think it's like a realignment, reminders that sometimes we don't even know we need. So we, as much as I'm going to say, we need your art. I need your art, and I'm sure like anyone who's listening to it would definitely do the same.
Thank you. I can't tell you how much that means to me. Thank you. Thank you so much.
This is truly, with all honesty, that you should truly believe in. Okay, one last thing. I'm sure people already know this, but where can people find you, support you? Where, how can, if you also want to put it out, where can they buy the book, pre-orders, and any other information you want to share?
Amazing. So you can find me on Instagram, which is at inspired to write. And then for this book, baby, you can just type in "we need your art" into Google. We need your art. And I want you to say it over and over again because we literally do. And you can buy it on Amazon, or you can pre-order it from like a local bookstore, like whatever it feels good for you. She'll be everywhere. I just want her in your hands. I want
I
you to
love how
feel
you
the
recognize her
support.
as she.
Oh, she's a she.
Little
I
thing.
always gender my books. I'm not sure why. Yeah, I want her in your hands. I want you to have the support you deserve. So we need your art. Just pop her into Google and go find her.
Perfect. Thank you so much, Amy. I truly appreciate this. I hope to see you soon again on the podcast, and I hope to celebrate more wins.
Thank you so much. So grateful.
So grateful. Thank you.